It started like any other day. Laughter in the halls, friends meeting for coffee, students rushing to classes without a second thought. But in a matter of seconds, everything changed. A single loud sound echoed to the student center, followed by an emergency alert that sent thousands into panic. Fear spread like wildfire. Doors were barricaded, and silence fell over a place once filled with life. Parents hundreds of miles away waited in agony, praying for a text back from their children. What unfolded next would leave an unforgettable mark on Illinois State University, a day that began like any other but ended as a haunting reminder how fragile safety can be. Illinois State University issues emergency alert for report of shots fired at Student Center. It was supposed to be an ordinary afternoon at Illinois State University. The Bone Student Center was buzzing with life. Students chatting, working on group projects, standing in line for coffee, or simply relaxing between classes. It was a kind of scene that felt completely normal, completely safe. But all of that changed in a matter of seconds. At around 2 p.m., a loud, unfamiliar sound echoed through the building. At first, many thought it might have been something harmless, maybe construction noise or a heavy object falling. But then came another sharp sound, and with it, a wave of panic. Moments later, every phone across campus buzzed with an emergency alert. Report of shots fired at the Bone Student Center. Shelter in place immediately. Fear swept through the student body like a wildfire. Professors quickly locked classroom doors. Students flipped over tables and hid beneath them. Some sprinted for exits, while others froze in place, trying to understand what was happening. Parents miles and miles away stared in horror at their phones as they received frantic messages from their children, or worse, heard nothing at all. Police responded immediately. Officers already stationed near the center rushed inside with weapons drawn. Within minutes, sirens wailed across campus as backup arrived. Local police departments, state troopers, and even specialized SWAT teams closed in. Helicopters circled overhead, adding to the chaos unfolding on the ground. It was a scene no one at Illinois State would ever forget. Inside the Bone Student Center, students huddled together in darkened rooms and storage closets. One student, Emily Johnson, later recounted her experience tearfully. "We were hiding behind a counter at the campus cafe," she said. "I texted my mom that I loved her. I thought it might be the last time I ever spoke to her." For nearly an hour, those trapped inside were left in terrifying uncertainty, unsure if a shooter was stalking the halls or if help would reach them in time. Meanwhile, outside the center, the university's communications team worked to keep students and staff updated, urging everyone to stay indoors, lock doors, and remain silent. News outlets picked up the story within minutes. Social media exploded with rumors. Some said there were multiple shooters. Others claimed hostages had been taken. In situations like this, fear often grows faster than facts. As the police conducted a room-by-room search of the student center, tension hung heavy in the air. Officers moved cautiously but quickly, checking every corner, every hallway, every stairwell. Slowly, students were escorted out in small groups, hands raised, faces pale with fear. Friends reunited outside in tearful embraces. Parents cried openly as they clutched their children. After a painstaking search, authorities made an announcement. No victims had been found. No active shooter had been located. Relief washed over the campus. But so did confusion. What had happened? What had triggered such an overwhelming emergency response? Later that evening, university officials held a press conference to explain. Based on preliminary investigations, it appeared that a loud sound, possibly from nearby construction or maintenance work, had been misinterpreted as gunfire. Given the speed at which information had traveled and the understandable fear it sparked, the university had acted swiftly to protect its students. In moments like this, an official said, "We cannot afford to hesitate. Even if it turns out to be a false alarm, we will always choose caution over regret." For many students, the emotional scars would take longer to heal than any physical injury. The fear they felt in those moments, the helplessness, the racing thoughts, the heart-wrenching goodbyes they whispered into their phones, could not simply be forgotten overnight. Yet amidst the trauma, there was gratitude. Gratitude that this time, everyone was safe. Gratitude for the bravery shown by the campus police and emergency responders. Gratitude for every hug shared with loved ones that evening. The following days at Illinois State University were quieter. Students moved a little slower, looked a little longer at their friends, and held on a little tighter. Classes resumed, the campus reopened. But something had shifted in the hearts of those who lived through that day. They had been reminded, in the harshest way possible, how quickly life can change and how precious every normal, uneventful moment truly is. In the end, the incident was a false alarm, but its impact was real. It sparked conversations across campuses nationwide about preparedness, about the importance of taking every warning seriously, and about the strength found in community. It was a day of fear, but also a day of courage and a powerful reminder that, in a world where threats can feel overwhelming, unity and vigilance remain our greatest protections. In the days that followed the emergency alert at Illinois State University, the campus remained on edge. Even though officials confirmed it was a false alarm, the emotional wounds left behind were still raw. Students who once laughed freely in the courtyards now looked over their shoulders. Every loud noise, every unexpected shout, made hearts race and palms sweat. Fear lingered in the air like a shadow that refused to leave. The university administration understood the deep impact the incident had caused. Counselors were made available around the clock. Safe spaces were created where students could talk openly about their experiences, their fears, and their lingering anxiety. But healing was a slow process. Many students struggled to return to their old routines. Some even considered transferring to other colleges, too shaken by the experience to stay. Among them was Emily Johnson, the student who had hidden behind the cafe counter during the lockdown. In an emotional interview with the campus newspaper, she spoke about the trauma she carried. Even though nothing actually happened, she said, in my mind, it did. I lived those moments believing I was about to die. That changes you. Faculty members also faced challenges. Professors noticed that students were quieter, more distracted, and some classrooms felt half empty. To help rebuild a sense of normalcy, Illinois State University organized a special event, a day of hope and healing. On that day, classes were canceled, and students and staff gathered at the campus green for a community-wide ceremony. There were speeches from survivors, heartfelt performances from the music students, and a candlelight vigil to honor the strength of the university community. Thousands attended, standing together under the open sky, each holding a small flame that flickered in the evening breeze. The president of the university spoke gently to the crowd, saying, "Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is choosing to move forward despite it." Slowly, day by day, life began to return. The coffee shops refilled with laughter. The library buzzed once again with the quiet hum of students studying late into the night. Sporting events resumed, and the stands were filled with cheering crowds. It wasn't the same as before, not exactly, but it was something stronger. It was resilience. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, university officials worked hard to improve campus safety measures. They conducted safety drills, improved the emergency alert system, and invested in more training for faculty and staff. They wanted to ensure that if such a moment ever came again, the university would be even better prepared. It was a promise to the students and to their families that their safety would always come first. Emily, too, found her own way to heal. She started a small support group for students struggling with anxiety after the alert. She turned her fear into action, helping others find their voice, find their strength. What began as a moment of terror had sparked a movement of compassion, understanding, and deep human connection. Illinois State University would never forget the day the alert shook their world, but they would also never forget how they came together afterward, stronger, braver, and more united than ever before. Because sometimes the greatest lessons come not from the moments that break us, but from the way we rise afterward.